Hey, this is Morgan Pratt with the JayMac for Congress campaign. If you're listening to this podcast, sounds like you like JayMac. You can find out more about him by going to his Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe and rate us. Now coming up, more JayMac.
Hello there, and welcome into another edition of the JayMac podcast. So glad that you are with us today as we explore a story of the absolute nonsensical, when political correctness goes so terribly wrong. What am I talking about today? This is an apology for an apology. I don't know if you saw this story out of Buffalo, but I read it, I saw it, I watched it, I couldn't believe it. It has to do with a food truck and the nerve of the food truck to actually serve employees at a federal immigration detention facility. People saw this online and they went crazy.
The owner of Lloyd Food Truck is apologizing for a statement that was made after they had one of their food trucks outside of a federal detention facility where undocumented immigrants are housed. Today, the owner said, "We make tacos, not war."
What?
Criticism came from people upset, especially on social media, that they were providing food to a place where undocumented immigrants are housed in Batavia. Right after the backlash, they called it a lapse in judgment to be there.
Our statement was hasty, and we reacted too quickly to criticism we received early Thursday morning. I want to clarify the facts around that lunch stop. Our truck, as we always do, was parked outside the facility, and anyone and everyone in the neighborhood was welcome to get their lunch there. We take responsibility for what transpired last week, but we want to emphasize that we don't take sides. That's what people did in social and traditional media in the last few days.
After the backlash, they received about 3 cancellations, but it appears to be business as usual outside the KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo. For Most Buffalo, I'm Claudine Ewing, Channel 2 News.
Well, thank you, Claudia. You heard it here first from Lloyd's Taco Truck. We make tacos, not war. So first, they get criticized for having the nerve to sell tacos to federal immigration detention facility workers. They get that criticism and they decide, oh no, what have we done? We need to apologize. Then they get criticized for apologizing. So now they're like, oh no, what have we done? We need to apologize for the apology. This world that we live in is unbelievable. Let's start with apology number 1. So, first of all, can I just say this from experience? Letting people out there, the trolls out there on social media, control you, spending time worrying about what they might think is the biggest mistake you can make. If you know who you are, if you know what you stand for, then stand. Stand for something. And in this case, you're standing for feeding federal employees who, by the way, have no say over immigration policy. This reminds me of just a horrific time in our country when the tide turned against the Vietnam War and people expressed their outrage for that war towards members of the military, veterans who were coming home. This is not a time that I remember personally because I was born in '69, but it is something that I have gone back and researched and studied. And I am very grateful to live in a time when we're able to separate members of the military from the choices that their leaders make. I mean, I just can't imagine a frame of mind where somebody gets drafted unwillingly into a war. They go and fight that war. They go and fight for their country, and they get home and they get off the plane and people are spitting on them. I thought we had learned, and maybe we're circling back and we're repeating history. Let me explain to you as clearly as possible. People who work at a federal immigration detention facility bear no responsibility for the standards set forth by them. Now, that's not to say that they're not responsible for ethics or for violations. Do not mistake this for somebody saying, well, I was ordered to do it, so I have to do it. No, if they see things that are wrong in that detention facility, they have every right and responsibility to be whistleblowers. But as far as we know, none of that is going on here. These are just federal employees following federal law, following the mandates from their leaders, and apparently they can't buy tacos. No tacos for you. So then you have this food truck who is so worried about people's perception of them that the moment they face any criticism, they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry for feeding federal employees. We'll never do it again. And then they receive the second backlash. So now backlash number 2 comes. People said, wait a minute, these federal employees are veterans. They're American citizens. They have every right to eat tacos. So then the owners of this poor food truck, they sit back and they think about it, and they finally come to the right conclusion. They're like, you know what? You're right. We had every business, every right to be able to sell tacos to federal employees. Why were we running? And it's because we're so afraid nowadays to stand on principle. We're so afraid that we might be in the wrong. We're so afraid of public perception that we knee-jerk. And the knee-jerk response is something that is a plague in our society today. It's one thing, I get calls and people will tweet me and they say, you need to respond to that person on social media. Can you believe what they're saying about you on Twitter? If I let the trolls and the naysayers and the haters dictate and control me at every turn, then guess who's in control? I told you, I learned this in therapy years ago when I was a child, that we all have a choice. We can either act or react. And when we react, the person who caused the reaction is in control. But when we act, we're in control. And people want to control you. That's what the trolls want. That's what the haters want. They want to see me or this food truck or anybody else get on social media and play the victim and start whining and knee-jerking and responding. And we can learn in this circumstance that the knee-jerk response is never the right response. Take a minute. Think about it. Ask yourself what you truly believe. If I spent all my time and effort responding to the naysayers on social media, they would be in control of me. But they aren't. They aren't. And they shouldn't be in control of this poor little food truck who got caught in the middle of a national controversy because they had the nerve, they had the audacity to sell tacos to federal immigration detention facility employees. Are you kidding me? Is this the world we live in? My friends, what do you stand for? And if you stand for that, then stand. And do not let the haters and the trolls control you. It's not worth it, and that's what they're looking for in the first place.
Thanks for listening to the JayMac podcast. If you'd like to donate to JayMac for Congress, you can go to JayMacForUtah.com. That's JayMacForUtah.com.